Hi, I'm Desi Williams and my brand is Pivot Peace. I got a little bit of a late bug, I think, to be in front of the camera. I competed in my first pageant my senior year of college, and it was being on stage in front of thousands of people that really ignited my passion for being in front of people and engaging with an audience, and it's just sort of taken off from there. So I was 21 when I got my first bug, and here I am still loving every second of it. I was the anti-pageant girl. I was very much like the girl who I didn't own a curling iron, I didn't own any makeup when I competed in my first pageant. Literally a girl backstage had to teach me how to use a curling iron before I went on stage, and then I won the pageant. But my first pageant was the Miss Hampton University pageant. I wanted to be my school's homecoming queen. Well, really, my grandmother wanted me to be my school's homecoming queen. So I did it really as a promise to my grandmother. And after that pageant, I took home the crown, and I just sort of kept competing. I've always loved to compete. I was a competitive cheerleader. I ran track in high school. So I love the idea of competition, and pageants was another way to do that in, I guess, a more grown-up kind of way. My second pageant was a preliminary pageant to the Miss Virginia pageant. So the title was Miss Peninsula. Again, I won. And I went to Miss Virginia, which is a preliminary pageant to the Miss America competition. So the first year I got first runner-up, so I decided I could go back the next year and win. So I went back the next year, won the pageant, which took me to Miss America in 2013. And once I got the bug, I had to keep competing. So I went to the Miss USA system. Again, first year I got first runner-up. Second year I went back and won Miss Virginia USA, which took me to Miss USA in 2016, where I finished in the top 10. So after I finished competing in the Miss USA 2016 competition, I would say about 5 months later, I got this weird message in my other inbox on Facebook. I go on there sometimes, and I had a message from a guy saying he was a casting director for Survivor. And I have to say, I didn't even know the show Survivor was still on at the time, but I checked it out, I Googled him, he seemed legitimate. And about 2 weeks later, they flew me out to LA to meet with Jeff Probst, the host of Survivor, along with all the producers. And then a few months later, I was flying out to Fiji to live on an island with a bunch of strangers for 39 days. I would say for me, the moment in Survivor that really meant the most for me was when I won the first individual immunity challenge of the season. So as someone who was kind of going into Survivor very green and very blind with a bunch of people who were hardcore fans of the show, I already knew that my odds weren't that great in the show because these people knew the game of Survivor and I did not. But post-merge, we split the teams and you go into individual immunity challenges. So each of us is fighting for our own lives in the game, and I got to walk away with the first individual immunity challenge of the season, which was an awesome feeling, just to know that I was triumphant by myself and I didn't need my teammates or anybody else pulling me along through the game. The thing that I think fans wouldn't believe is how real Survivor is, or at least I didn't know how real Survivor was. I knew for sure that we'd go out there, they'd have porta potties, they'd have some toilet paper, because that's the sanitary thing to do, right? But when you get on Survivor, there's no toilet paper. There is no bathroom. The ocean is your bathtub. It is your toilet. It is where you get water to cook with. So it's a little disgusting, but somehow we all make it out alive. So that's what I was most shocked to learn, and I think the viewers would be shocked to know that as well. So I was first drawn to physical therapy in high school. I've had 2 knee surgeries, so I spent a ton of time with a physical therapist. But even within that experience, I also became the head coach of a Special Olympics cheerleading team. And that's where I really was able to see how being involved in movement and daily movement could really affect and alter somebody's life. We had athletes who were nonverbal, who hadn't talked, who had a hard time even walking, who by the end of 3 years participating in the cheerleading team were talking in full sentences. They wouldn't stop talking. They were running circles around us. And so there's something really special about really taking advantage of the natural movement abilities of the body and the way that that affects not just your physical capacity, but your mental state, your emotional state, your cognitive well-being. And through that experience, I knew that I wanted to be involved somehow and enhancing people's lives in that way. Pivot is important to me because about 2.5 years ago, I made the decision to leave a job as a professor, a stable job where I would have been employed there for the rest of my life, to move out to Los Angeles and kind of start completely over. I moved to Los Angeles 2.5 years ago with just 2 suitcases and nothing else, because I wasn't happy with what I was doing in my life. I had nothing to be upset about from the outside looking in, but you know when you're not fulfilled in life. Coming from the world of pageants, people were used to seeing me on TV or used to me having some big goal next. But when I moved to Los Angeles, people were quick to say, when will we see you on TV next? Or what's the next big thing for you? And at first I was really hard on myself. People expect you to just come to LA and book jobs right away, but that's not the case for most of us, or really anybody that I knew. So I really had to take some time to reflect on whether I wanted to do what was going to please people back home or do what was going to make me feel happy and fulfilled. So I've had to take a few pivots, and I've had to take a lot of rejection along the way. So that's why I created Pivot Piece, because we all need a place to go to, or we know that we're not alone, that somebody else is facing the same issues we are. So on Pivot Piece, I provide short 60-minute videos on how to deal with things like breakups, because I've been through devastating breakups where I thought I was gonna get married, and here I am, unmarried, but still happy. We've all had those pivots in our life, and more importantly, I'll be interviewing people who have had success in many different industries, but who are willing to have a really candid conversation about the lows in their lives as well, the devastations that they faced along the way, so that you know as you start to chase your dreams and start to complete your goals, that there will be tough times, but you can pull yourself out of those tough times and still be successful. What I love the most about hosting is that it allows me to be the most authentic version of myself. In LA, I do some acting, as everybody in LA does some acting, and it is fun to be somebody else, but I tell people all the time that I love hosting because I get to be myself, and it takes me to all kinds of exciting places. So one of my first hosting jobs was hosting the Miss Virginia pageant. It was the year I was passing my title, and it was broadcast all across the state of Virginia. So that was a really exciting opportunity that put me in homes across the state and actually led to my next job, which was being a spokesperson for my city's annual race event. I served in that role for 3 years until I moved here to LA. And since then, I've done trade shows. I went to Las Vegas last year and worked with Aero Electronics at CES, which is the largest electronics event in the world. I've also been the co-host of The View from Hampton U, which is a cable show that broadcasts across the Metro DC area. I was the host of that show for 2 years. And in addition to that, I've been working with a local college system here in California. I work with them about 2 to 3 times a year with some of their major events, just interacting with their students, serving in promotional materials, and interacting with their faculty and staff as well.